Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome back to the Rising Cover podcast. I am back after a 6 month hiatus. I started off 2024 welcoming a precious baby girl into the world, and it's been quite a journey. And it's been also such a blessing to be able to take a lot of this time to give into this new life that I'm settling in with my husband, and it's been a lot, but alhamdulillah, we are doing well, and I'm back, and I'm excited to really share a lot with you all for season two. I feel like season two, the theme and of what I'm seeing is going to be a lot more personal, and related to my lifestyle, which will be kind of fun, I think, to dive into and like dissect and give a little more to you all. And inshallah, from my learnings and experience, you all can learn from maybe me or just be inspired to apply anything in your life and just possibly, inshallah, remove any barriers that are causing negativity or stopping you from pursuing or living a very happy life. So, to get started, I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about raising a bicultural child as a Muslim convert. And I think it is something that I wanted to come on here and share because I find that navigating expectations as a Muslim convert, when you're marrying into a, say, an Arab family, and very much like myself, you can maybe feel like there are expectations that are put in place externally from others who maybe you don't know very well, or just from the community itself, or just in general, you feel like these expectations that you have of yourself since you are a Muslim convert or revert. And I say that because when you think of putting pressure for yourself and you think of the expectations you have, I feel like the pressure can come from you are entering something new. Therefore, you are responsible, or you feel like you have to hold yourself at a higher level because you're doing so much of the learning and a lot of knowledge is coming your way. So you should apply it. And I feel like that's just a constant theme in general during the as a Muslim convert revert. The more information you know, it's almost like the quicker you feel like you need to apply it, or you just think about it so hard and becomes mentally exhausting. And then when I think about the external factors of the expectations that people may have on you, or for your child or for your relationship, um, honestly, it's very natural. I think there's always going to be concerns, and really it's something that I think a lot of people are going to experience regardless. And so I think you have control of what it is that you want to experience. And so by just taking a moment to think twice whether or not this is something that you want to come face to and eventually have to adjust or manage, because your headspace is definitely something that's important when you're thinking about raising a child in general. And so being able to have an idea when you're thinking of a potential partner or potential father to like your kids in the future, it's just something that you need to think of from the very beginning. And it's something that I definitely think about, or sorry, I thought about when I first met my husband. And so I feel like the root of navigating expectations will come forward and be a lot easier to handle if the conversation's been had, about either the topic of having kids when you're meeting someone, or just when you think about who your partner is and where you both are at and who you both are as individuals. So I remember when my husband and I first established our relationship, we already knew quite a bit about each other because we had a friendship prior to getting together. And when things got really serious, a lot more personal, intimate, and vulnerable conversations came up. And it was pretty natural for the most part. But of course, there's always the intention to wanting to find out more and share more as we're thinking about a long term, serious relationship. And I remember we somewhat discussed having kids when we were getting to know each other, and our goals and our future and what our family is like, and the kind of dynamic that we're looking for, and the reflections that we've had, based on like our personal growth, our personal childhood, and our parents' ways and the things that we've learned. And so a lot of what we had shared was just very personal stories, and it was more of like a reflection. And we would kind of just naturally say, like, well, this is kind of what I want. This is kind of the kind of person I want to be. This kind of father I want to be. This is the kind of person that I am today and that I aspire to be. And I remember just knowing where we both stand as individuals, knowing that we have goals that align, and we have a vision that's somewhat similar, not exactly the same, but somewhat similar. I think it really helps to in the future. So like, where we are now, where we're married, we are first time parents, we just have a baby. Any expectations that anyone has, we've or any maybe comments that we might have received was just kind of like, okay, well, it's not that deep because we already know so much of each other and who we are as individuals that we're not worried at all. So sometimes we just entertain for the sake of entertaining. Sometimes we just ignore or just don't really respond because there's no need to respond. And also in general, I think we, as both people who are pretty outspoken, I'd say, we kind of just are very, without having to be so like aggressive, we're just very open about like what kind of goals we have as like parents. And I think we just naturally just show it through our actions that we are willing and open and very excited to for this cool little cute baby that we have. And having a mixed child doesn't mean that it's going to take us away from anything, and it's not going to steal us from our journey of becoming better Muslims, or it's going to rob her from becoming a Muslim. So there's always like external factors that I think will always come in. And I think that's why navigating expectations is something that can be a thing or important when it comes to raising a bicultural child. The other thing that I think about when it comes to, being like a Muslim convert and coming in to a family that's outside of your family's background and culture is that regardless of, where you were, whether it's like birth or conversion, Muslims are represented by many people by diverse backgrounds and various colors. Just like anyone, I feel like Muslim people who come from many different places belong to any religion, regardless of their appearance or nationality. And I feel like one cannot determine a person's religion solely based on their physical attributes. And so, because I strongly believe in that, I don't necessarily think that there's so much more that someone needs to get into when they're also thinking about raising a bicultural child, or even when they feel like they have to explain themselves and stand up for themselves when they are a Muslim convert or revert coming into a family and feeling like they have to they have to speak or defend their culture. This diversity is what makes us really unique. I think anyone can embrace Islam, and it is our actions as parents and as just people who live in this world, and not our appearance that defines who we are and our beliefs. And so I think that for us, for my family, embracing my family's like Latin heritage should not be dismissed just because it is something that is maybe looked as un-Islamic. I believe, and my husband believes that our kids, our little one right now, she can be both Hispanic and Arab, and most importantly, Muslim, right? And that's really what it just comes down to. Um, Another thing that I'd also like to kind of bring forward is that I think it's really important to ensure that your child can appreciate and embrace and respect both cultural backgrounds. I feel like for me, striving for my child to feel comfortable with an Islamic way of life in both cultures, and I think is something that's beautiful. And I think it's something that can be done with a positive outlook. I also find that the things that I'm excited about and I think will naturally show as my kid grows, inshallah, is the exposure to the diverse cuisine that she'll have, the multiple languages that she's going to, or she is already exposed to. My family speaks Spanish, my husband's family speaks Levantine Arabic, and they can read. My in-laws can read Fasha Arabi, which is like the Quranic Arabic that you read. And then there's English, of course. And so it's going to be awesome to know that my child today has the opportunity to listen to different sounds and accents and enunciations. It's going to be awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to her, inshallah, to pick up the Arabic language because, man, can they pronunciate and enunciate like words from, I feel like, any language because they used her throat and different parts of like um, their mouth where they like place their tongue. And I know this because I'm currently taking Quran class. And so my teacher is a Lebanese instructor. And so she's trying to tell me all these ways to like work these muscles that I feel like if you maintain the Arab language, um, yeah, I feel like you're just such a pro. Like I'm actually amazed with what they can do. It's so hard. It's genuinely so hard. If you ever want to learn, I feel like watch a YouTube video or something and see how it is that they roll their tongues or just move it around or use their back of their throat to create these unique sounds in their language. So I'm hoping, inshallah, that my daughter can pick that up and, she'll be a pro. um, Anyways, adding to the excitement of what she'll be exposed to is also the variations of celebrations. Latin people have their way of celebrating life, parties, for birthdays, and so do other people as well, right? Like they have a different vibe and energy, and so I think that'll be really fun and for her to see, inshallah. And then, of course, the other thing I think about is embracing the opportunity to establish new tradition. And then, when we have these traditions in place in our home, I feel like those new traditions can blend the old. And essentially, you're just blending the old with the new. I think there's so much that can come from having, again, those conversations from like way back before choosing a partner, or once you've gotten with someone, um, and you've established something solid, is being able to have that conversation of what from the old do you want to bring, and then kind of just mix it up. And I think naturally it will also come when you come together and you're in this moment, very much like where we are now, where we have a baby and month by month, or you know when we see our baby kind of go through milestones, we realize like, oh, like we want to do it this way, or this is what we did, or are we going to, I don't know, do something, for the baby. And I think something like gold, like you can buy them gold right away, or maybe it's silver for boys or something. Another example, actually a more clear example, is like I know for some um cultures, like my like Latin culture and the Arab culture, is like they're like, oh, if you have a girl, you pierce her earrings, and it's like a tradition, and you can do this thing, and you get their ears pierced and stuff, and we can choose whether or not we want to do that, right? So I think it's really cool, and exciting to have like a family and a new little member in the house, and to be able to just kind of play around and see what it is that's going to fit for us and also be a representation of our beliefs and our values. So I think that's really cool. And I think the theme that's coming right now is just like, again, having a positive outlook, getting excited for these things that is going to benefit your child, because when they see that you got like a good vibe, good energy going, they're going to feel that and they're going to feed off of that, and inshallah they're going to continue to grow and be a very happy little one. um but aside from that, what I also want to share is, when I think about raising a bicultural child, I also think about teaching my children to be open minded and acknowledge different perspectives. And, I'm just going to speak for me. Me coming into an auto family, being Latin, I already know, and I've already been experiencing how my perspective may be different or is different from my husband or his family's perspective on things, because obviously the core essence, the root of who we are and how we were raised, is going to play a role in how we are, who we are today, and how it is that it shaped us, right? And so I think just teaching our children to be open mind, because they are, predominantly going to be exposed to my husband's side of the family, because we're closer, location wise, to them versus my family. So just, teaching them that they're going to have an open mind and they're going to embrace diversity. And I would love for them to foster acceptance on both ends. I would love for them to see the good and the beauty behind both cultures, because I think it's very important. Um, and then I think that once we kind of form a bit of like the positive sides in embracing diversity and in fostering acceptance, I think that's going to support myself, my husband, and our baby, um, and babies, maybe inshallah, balancing between two worlds, and it's going to enrich their perspective. I think it's going to be a beautiful way to show them that, they can do both. They can be around both. They can feel in tune or in touch with both, because it is something that a lot of people do, who are very similar to them, right? A lot of other kids come from a household where they have two different parents from different backgrounds, right? It's like a normal thing. It's something they're also going to be exposed to. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how it unfolds. And that's what I'm hoping for, inshallah, for them to be able to have somewhat of a balance, or at least feel like they have a bit of a balance between two worlds. And then lastly, the thing that comes up for me is being able to not worry too much about the future. I think, for instance, my child, as my child grows, they may define themselves differently and potentially causing cultural gaps within the family. And the thing that I'm preparing myself, just in general, and again, this doesn't take too much of my brain, is just remaining open to discussion and questions as they continue to grow. And I think that's going to be the key thing for me. And then once I think about all of that, I feel like anything that anybody has to say isn't really going to affect me, and it's not going to, hopefully, inshallah, not affect my baby. I feel like, again, protecting your headspace is very important. I think that as a Muslim convert and revert, these sense of expectations or fears that someone may have is something that is going to come regardless. And so I can't imagine having trouble with this, or I can't imagine not having trouble with this type of situation that I'm in, if it wasn't for having a conversation with a partner, like, or with the person I'm potentially thinking of marrying, right? Um, but I think the most important thing as well that I also want to recognize and bring back to light is that you have to understand that regardless of where you come from, regardless of who you are, whether you were Latin, African, or Caucasian, you are a Muslim, if that's like, if that's how you identify as. And you being a Muslim is something that's going to be coming forward already anyways. Be confident in like who you are today as a Muslim, and that will totally carry through and carry on as you continue to live your life. And then when you think about having kids and thinking about having a partner, I think it's just something that naturally you're going to want to have to talk about, just because it is a big part of your life. Um, there's also a lot of like mosques and people around who have a lot of these discussions, and it really sometimes like hurts my heart when I hear from other people who think about their future and having kids and how they're converts and they're not going to have much control, or that they feel like their identity as, say, like, say they're Latin, like, as Latin people or as a Latin person, they feel like they can't embrace or love their heritage. And I think it's really sad. I think it's very hurtful. And I think it's something that can play into someone's confidence. It's just, it's it's just also not like what Islam is, right? Islam is beautiful, and there are so many fellow Muslims that want to live or live by the Islamic way, regardless of their race and ethnicity. And I think that's something that we just need to always remember. And regardless of what anyone tells you, yes, raising a bicultural child can be sure tricky, but I think it can be very positive, and I think the positive outweighs the negative. And so there's just so much more to look forward to. And I'm really happy. Alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful that so far my journey in this past few months has been awesome. It's been really cool to see who I am as a parent and how it is that I also bring in my husband's culture into my baby's life. I think it's also amazing that like my husband's family side also wants to get involved and wants to, I'm sure inshallah will want to like share and show them what they eat, which I'm and how they did things maybe when they were little, right? So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Um, inshallah. Yeah. So anyways, I thought I'd come on here and share that because that is something that is happening in my life. I feel like it's very relevant. And inshallah, whatever it is that I said today can help you and bring some ease in your path or in your thoughts for your future. Inshallah. Anyways, everyone, assalamu alaikum. If you have questions, comments, write them down. If you have any tips actually about raising a bicultural child or anything around being a Muslim convert or revert, write them in the comments. Reach out to me on Instagram at Rising Convert and we can chat. I'd love to also hear from each and every one of you. And if you ever want to get on the pod, you can always reach out as well. Anyway, subscribe, support. I appreciate it so much. Take care, everyone.